So Steve Flamsteed from Innocent Bystander in the Yarra Valley, here to talk about impressions of the 2011 vintage, a vintage which I know Stephen Strachan from the Winemakers Federation Australia talks about the fact that despite all the doom and gloom because of all the rain, it's a vintage that is going to show off the diversity of Australia. So Steve, great to hear from you about the Yarra Valley and your experience of 2011 in the Yarra.
I think it's far from doom and gloom. We've got some of the best Chardonnay we picked. It was very cool and reasonably wet, obviously, and we picked early, and we've got incredible sort of steely acids in the Chardonnays. The Pinots are lighter than most years, that's for sure, but there's certainly plenty of perfume there. So, and because we're hand picking, we're able to do a lot of sorting. So there was a little bit of botrytis around, and some downy mildew around too. We're able to sort around that carefully, and the result is some beautiful fruit that came into the winery.
What sort of crop losses did you have for the
we probably harvested about half what we thought we'd pick.
Really? Wow.
Down 40% anyway.
But I guess, in France we'd be talking about a grower's vintage.
Exactly.
So very careful selection in the vineyard, and then of course the sorting table, but also a lot of work with canopy management.
A lot of work. A lot of trips through the vineyard to leaf pluck and lots of bunch thinning, but there's no more than we normally do, really. So I think it's a beautiful vintage. I don't know what they were talking about, to tell you the truth.
So Pinot Noir, Chardonnay,
they're very strong. I mean, Cabernet for us is a little bit light, and they require a bit more sunlight. We didn't get all that huge amount of sunlight to actually get them fully ripe at the end. So, we had to thin the crop back incredibly heavily to get what was left on the vine to ripen. Shiraz again is a nice surprise. It was very highly perfumed. We got pepper for the first time in a long time. We haven't seen pepper in the Yarra for a long time. So,
because Shiraz seems to be one of the varieties in 2011 which really suffered with the disease pressure.
I don't know, not in our place anyway. I mean, I know generally Shiraz did suffer, but we did a lot of passes through and thinned off as botrytis appeared. We just chopped it off. So I'm pretty happy with that Shiraz. The only one I've got reservations about is our Cabernet and Merlot, because they just didn't accumulate enough ripeness from not enough sunlight, basically.
And then, Steve, looking at the bigger picture, and it was a vintage where, because of all the crop losses that everyone was reporting and the disease pressure, there was an expectation that the vintage, the overall national crush would be significantly down. And in fact, it turned out to be, or preliminary reports, 1% up on 2010. And comments about, again, issues about sustainability of, Australia going forward with that kind of crush. Any thoughts on what needs to be done?
Look, there certainly needs to be a bit less fruit harvested. I don't know where it all came from this year. None of us really know. So I think what happened is a lot of stuff that was left behind was scooped up by the larger companies and made into some kind of wine, and that's a tragedy, because it would have been a year when that stuff should have probably stayed on the vine and not been picked at all. I guess we're a bit removed. We're very much part of the industry, but we kind of do our own thing, and as long as we keep an eye on our productions very closely, that's obviously what affects us directly. But in the bigger picture for Australia, it would appear that some wines have to come out from around the country in certain parts here. And that's not happening very quickly. And it must be tough for a grower to do that, because there's being huge incentives handed out to do it. It's got to be almost a decision that it's just not viable anymore, and therefore we probably won't continue with it. And that's a really tough bit of pie to eat. So, we're not sure where it's going. We just don't know. It seems to be more in the lower to middle end where there's an excess of fruit rather than the higher end. There still seems to be demand for high-end fruit with all of the proper viticulture, and that's where we belong, I suppose. So I say in some ways we're a little bit immune from the problem, but at the same time it's very much part of the industry. So.
And actually, just coming back to the top end and Giant Steps, where you're making single vineyard Pinot Noir and Chardonnay from different parts of the Yarra. And did you notice differences in the 2011 vintage across those single vineyards, which worked best in 2011?
Certainly the warmer sides did better. The north-facing slopes on what we call a valley floor were probably a bit easier to deal with than the higher altitude slopes, whereas it was quite a lot wetter. And that's a nice surprise, because normally it's the other way around. We harvest the warmer slopes a bit earlier and then wait for the late ones. So it made us realise it was a really good year to have a good footprint right across the valley. Have access to some warmer slopes, some cooler slopes, some high altitude, some low altitude slopes. And that's valuable in these kind of years. So,
Thank you very much, Steve.
No worries.